be confused with Mamba Day, which is actually tomorrow on 8/24, which will be celebrated with the release of these fire undefeated Nike Zoom Kobe 4-pack. Meanwhile, today, Kobe's 41st birthday marks another busy year post-basketball in which he co-wrote a book named Legacy and the Queen and welcomed his fourth daughter, Capri. But the further away we get from Kobe's playing days, the more Kobe stans stay the same. And it was this time last year when Kobe spoke out about his fans, saying, quote, they need to fall in line and support the new king in LA. But now that we're a year into the LeBron Laker era, Royce, do you think that they will ever fully, truly embrace LeBron?
Well, I think we know what the criteria is to even begin that discussion, and that's an NBA title for LeBron. And I don't think that LeBron can ever truly get to that level of Kobe, because look, the time is not going to be there for LeBron. He's going to spend at most, 5 years as a Laker, probably, at the most. Kobe's got an entire career with one team ingrained into the fabric of the franchise. And I don't think it's even fair to wonder if LeBron can get to that level. We know what it takes to begin that discussion, and LeBron hasn't done that yet. They haven't even been to the playoffs yet with LeBron as a Laker.
I still get nightmares over Kobe Bryant, and I say that because we had the opportunity in 1996 to draft him. I say it's the greatest workout never seen, and we brought him in 4 or 5 times in 1996. Back then, you could work out, he was in high school coming out, high school players against NBA players. So he worked out against Ed O'Bannon from UCLA and Khalid Reeves and totally destroyed them. And Kerry Kittles, as you've seen, was certainly a good player for us, but he is no Kobe Bryant.
Right.
And, back then, the high school players were not really the thing. Kevin Garnett had gotten drafted the year before. We had a young coach in John Calipari who was coming out of UMass, and you could tell right there in a tiny gym in Fairleigh Dickinson University that he was going to be a special player.
You just look at that old video. On Kobe's birthday, he is an aging wonder because he looks the exact same. But Royce, you mentioned, LeBron not being able to be the same in Kobe Stan's eyes. But that's what we're talking about, people who are loyal to Kobe. Right. I think it comes down to the argument of, LeBron being the better player than Kobe. And there's a difference between Lakers fans and Kobe fans, because our producer, Tucker, he's a Kobe fan. And he says his dad, who's also a Kobe fan, does not want to be a Laker fan until LeBron is gone. And what are your impressions of that?
Yeah, and I think that's just the reality, Cass, is that, we saw it last year with the murals going up in LA, and I think it's fine to be excited about both things, about celebrating the career and the legacy of Kobe Bryant. Do we have the same thing though? Putting up the Lakers there. Do people feel the same way about Magic Johnson and then Kareem? Do they have these segmented bases of the fan base that feel like that they have to support?
I think the segment is maybe post MJ, because the question is who's the best post MJ player? Because it's always the conversation who's better, LeBron or MJ. Is that your impression, Bobby?
Well, I think the post MJ is Kobe. I mean, I know what LeBron has done in Miami and certainly with Cleveland, but when you look at his 20 years with the Lakers, 5 NBA championships, and it's funny, I had an argument with an Uber driver in LA about the same subject as far as what he thought my impressions on the Lakers would be, and I thought they were going to be, a top 3 team, and he still has bitterness about LeBron even joining the Lakers here because of the Kobe sentiment there.
Oh, wow. Bobby chiming in on the GOAT conversation and putting Kobe above LeBron. That's for another day, maybe, down the line. But let's talk about Minnesota and the T-Wolves. They're hoping that Andrew Wiggins one day may get the Mamba mentality, but Wiggins is entering his 6th season in the league, and while he has played well, many feel there's still a lot of room for improvement in this game, and that includes Wolves president Gerson Rosas, who said this about Wiggins. Quote, in order for us to have the success we want to have, Wiggins has got to be a main contributor. To be fair to him, he needs some continuity in terms of coaching, philosophy, strategy, and style of play. And we feel he's going to be one of the bigger beneficiaries of this style of play. Royce, do you trust Wiggins to step up for the Wolves this season?
Well, the Wolves obviously consider him a franchise player because they're paying him like he's one. And that's what's kind of that's what's covered this whole conversation around Andrew Wiggins, and it changed once he got the contract that he got, is people started perceiving him in a different way. Is he playing up to the dollar amount that he's making? And to be perfectly honest, he's been a disappointing player. He's too inconsistent. One night he will look like that guy, and then 2 nights he won't. And if the Wolves are going to begin to take the steps forward as a franchise around these young players that they have, Andrew Wiggins has got to be part of it. And so, look, there can be some optimism there in terms of your infrastructure, bringing back Ryan Saunders and trying to build out that way. But Andrew Wiggins has got to do it on the floor first and prove it on a consistent basis.
He will be defined by his max salary. And that's the reality of where we are right now. And he's owed $122 million over the next 4 years. He's had 4 head coaches in 5 years. He's still only 24 years old. But the reality is he's an enigma. He can give you 19 points one night or 20 points, and he can give you 10 the next night. And you're right. I mean, that contract is not really movable right now, and they are going to need him. And I always say the litmus test is, if you are a team that had cap space, would you go out and sign Andrew Wiggins for 4 years, $122 million? And I think the answer is a resounding no right now.
There's always there's a question around him of the want to. And that is such a hard thing to control because, like you said, we see glimpses of talent. Actually, Phil Mackey asked an interesting question to Rosas. He says, is Wiggins unlockable? Rosas' response was, we need him to be unlockable. But if you don't have the key, you know, how much can you put in? Well, how much stock can you put in a guy like that?
It certainly feels like there's a great player there somewhere,
right,
and a great two-way player, because that's kind of
why
always
we keep
been
asking this question.
And you can see it, but there's so many players that have this,
yeah,
and then they get to age 28, 29, 30, 31, and it never happened.
But he is 24.
And Royce, you've seen him against Oklahoma City, right? He's played his best basketball against the Thunder
if he could play
last
against
year.
the Thunder for 82 games, the guy would be all NBA. He's unbelievable
That's
against
true.
Oklahoma City.
But look, he's 24 years old, and this should be the peak of his career. So we will see now that it's a little bit stable with Ryan Saunders there. You know, we'll see if he can produce. Now, while the T-Wolves are working towards another playoff appearance, the Thunder, they're in rebuild mode. And a piece they hope to build around is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who was one of the main pieces in the Chris Paul trade with the Oklahoma City Thunder. The second-year player, though, says he's not feeling any pressure to fill in for Russell Westbrook. Here's what he said about joining OKC. Quote, I'm not Russell Westbrook. We don't have the same name, the same body type, nothing like that. So I'm going to try to be myself and be the best me, and everything else will just take care of itself. Bobby, given the expectations that have shifted with OKC trading away basically 2 All-NBA players, what's a successful season for the Thunder? Well,
the successful season is building off of what an rookie year. He's only 21 years old. He averaged 10, 5, and 5 in LA last year. I think he's got a valuable mentor in Chris Paul, as long as we don't know how long Chris Paul is going to be there. And here's a player that was close to untouchable in Los Angeles, and they did not want to put him in that Paul George shade. That was kind of the last piece to be added there. But the reality is this is going to be a lottery team. So it's got to be, as far as do not fall into we always see young players fall into bad habits when they go to teams that win 25 and 30 games. And I think he's got to kind of continue those habits that he had in Los Angeles with when he played under Doc Rivers.
I think it's really smart for him to temper expectations and make sure that the fan base understands I'm not that guy. And I know that it's kind of easy to laugh about saying I'm not Russell Westbrook. We don't have the same name, which is obvious. We understand that. But for people that have shown up to that arena and watched Russell Westbrook for a decade, and the style of play that he brings, and the excitement, and the energy, and the emotion, the tenacity, all those things, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, in basically every sense of the word, is a different player. He plays differently, he has a different demeanor, a different skill set. And for him to kind of try to distance himself and say, let me be my own guy, let me develop at my own pace, I think that shows a sign of maturity from him to kind of understand that it's smart to distance himself from Russell Westbrook.
Right, and draft picks are hard to chew on, okay? So, I mean, you're in OKC. What is the talk around fans about what they expect out of this season?
I think that there's some cautious optimism, especially with the front office and the coaching staff. They feel like they could be in that playoff conversation. And it's kind of hard to wrap your mind around that, having the fact that they traded away 2 All-NBA guys. But Chris Paul, Danilo Gallinari, Steven Adams, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Terrence Ferguson had quietly a pretty good year last year, Dennis Schroeder. There's a core of a pretty good team there. They feel like they could be in that 35 to 40 win range. The question is, and Bobby would know better about how the Thunder might approach this, but do they want to be that good? Like, if they get to the trade deadline and you've got Danilo Gallinari, who's an expiring contract, and you're on the fringes of the playoff conversation, do you want to remain that good?
I think that what you do is you use a 25 to 30 game sample the first years. You get to January 1. We could say this about a lot of teams, maybe even like a team like Toronto, and then see where you are. Mm-hmm. If you're in the hunt in that 6 to 8 range, you stay put, even with the Gallinari expiring contract. But it all comes down to Chris Paul, right? How long is he going to be there?
What are the options there?
None right now. I mean, really, the only option is Miami down the road. And if you're the Heat, that basically takes you out of the 2021 free agent class when they get another crack at getting a player next to Jimmy Butler. So I think Chris Paul is going to be there for the season, and you are still going to be a competitive team, but you don't want to be one of those teams that are going to be picking 12, 13, 14, or maybe now with the lottery changes, maybe you do.
No, it may not matter.
As much as Shea is tempering expectations, he's not Russell Westbrook. I think that fans in OKC should also temper their expectations that they're not going to be a playoff team in the West. But look, stranger things have happened. All right, we now have some breaking news to report. The Kings and the NBA said today that they have ended their joint investigation of Coach Luke Walton into allegations of sexual assault, harassment, and unwanted physical contact made by former TV reporter Kelly Tennant. In a statement, the team and league said investigators determined there was not a sufficient basis to support the allegations. Tennant elected not to participate in the investigation, in which they interviewed more than 20 people. In their statement, the Kings said, quote, Luke Walton is our head coach, and we support him and his team as they continue to prepare for the upcoming season. Walton also released a statement saying, quote, I am 100% focused on coaching the Sacramento Kings and energized to work with this incredible group of players and coaches as we start the preseason. I will have no further comment. All right, coming up, we have a lot more to get into, including, does the NBA need a new logo? We'll bring that Twitter conversation to life next. But first, here's a distant replay from this date in 2006. Melo's